That's for 20 minutes.
Okay, this meeting of the trustees of the Lamesa Independent School District is now in order. It is 6:02 p.m. on January the 19th, 2023. A quorum is present with all board members present. This meeting has been duly called and the notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code Chapter 551. I'm going to introduce Mr. Hughes from the Gideons. If you would like to, I don't know if he's doing the prayer.
Yes, I have a couple of guys from Cornerstone. You'll probably recognize them from here. Anyway, I wanted to say I really wanted to apologize for not being here last month. Me and my wife were sharing the COVID, I think, or something. Stomach bug, or, whatever's going around the school. But anyway, it really is a blessing to come here and pray with you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
At this time, I'd ask Josh Freitag and Baker Fernandez to come up and see what's making.
Just thanks Mike for letting us do this, and thank y'all for letting us do this. But y'all pray with us. Yeah, we thank you for the school board. We just thank you for each and every man and woman here that's trying to help just make the schools better, make Lamesa better. We thank you for the administrators and the jobs that they're doing, everything that they're putting in. We just pray, God, that you would bless them, bless their conversations today, bless the decisions they make. We just pray that you would just lead the whole process, that you would lead each and every heart, each and every mind, and that your will would just be done through this whole thing. As they try to make decisions on permanent superintendent, we just pray, God, that your hand would be on that. We just bring the right man or woman here, and let it be somebody that's really going to turn to you for all their decisions. We just thank you for this town. We thank you for this community. And the blessing that we all have to live here. We just pray that you would guide us each and every day. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Freitag,
Thank you
Mr.
very
Hernandez. Yes, next we have, we're going to have a moment of silence for Mary Estrada. Thank you. Now we'll have the public forum.
Carter Sheldon.
Okay.
Thank you. I understand it is School Board Appreciation Day or month or something like that, so thank you all for your willingness to serve.
Thank you.
Imagine my surprise when I saw on the agenda for the meeting tonight the consideration of stopping the live streaming. Of all times to bring this up, we're just 3 weeks away from what you've estimated is the date to decide and vote on a finalist for the superintendent's position. And then the date to hire a new superintendent you've published as being just shortly after that, March the 2nd. Just 2 weeks later, on May the 5th, an election by the people for 3 board members. Why not give the new superintendent and the board, as it is comprised at that time, who knows, maybe the same, the opportunity to bring their ideas and have a voice in this matter? Why bring it up right now? Is there a legitimate reason for the hurry of trying to do it when you are also in the process of getting a new superintendent and elections coming up? Why are you considering depriving the people from observing the proceedings of this at all times? The selection of the new superintendent and the elections coming up are important to the people. You already have the technology and the equipment in place to continue live streaming the meetings for the benefit of those who can't attend in person for some reason, whether it's children at home, work schedule, or some other reason. The people do appreciate being afforded this opportunity. The live streaming makes the citizens feel respected by the board. and gives them the ability to feel connected and informed. Affording this opportunity for the people also reflects your desire to represent the public's interest in our school and our kids. This is true whether many or just a few view the proceedings. Each and every citizen is valuable. When people can see the actual meeting, they don't have to rely on what they hear from someone else's version of the meeting. It helps to correct the "I heard." The transparency that the board is providing through live streaming the meetings is a powerful tool to build positive public relations. So again, on behalf of the community, please continue providing the live streaming opportunity for the citizens.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we're gonna go to
Mike
the,
Hughes also signed up.
I'm sorry, oh, I'm sorry.
Mike Hughes also
Okay,
signed
I'm
up.
sorry. Go ahead, Mr. Hughes.
Were you going to speak?
Yeah.
Were you going to speak?
Oh, I'm sorry. No, ma'am, I'm good, thank you,
All right.
appreciate it.
I guess now we'll go to the reading of the proclamation by Dalia Benavides.
So, since it is School Board Recognition Month, January is School Board Recognition Month, we wanted to let our school board know how much we appreciate the work that they do for us and for our schools. We started out the day with our meeting at the high school, and I know you all enjoyed that, and we got some really nice gifts, and I think we have some more gifts to bear. But I'm going to read this proclamation, and then are you ready to give out the gifts, or you want to do it afterwards? Okay. All right, so the proclamation is from the governor, the state of Texas, office of the governor. To catch a glimpse of the Texas of tomorrow, we need only to look into the classrooms of today. The boys and girls presently enrolled in our schools will, and in due time, take the reins of the nation and determine the destiny of our people. In their presence, our founders knew that the American democratic experiment could succeed only if our population remained virtuous and educated, and our schools promote the very entitlement upon which our republic
That was.
consequently
Thank you.
the task befalls our
thank you so
school
much.
boards is the of utmost importance. A child's God-given capacity is practically unlimited, and to unlock the fullness of their potential, we must all support the efforts of local school boards in any way we can. We must likewise remain informed about issues facing our schools, never forgetting that these bodies are accountable to the citizenry. At this time, I encourage all Texans to acknowledge and celebrate the thousands of school board trustees who voluntarily serve the next generation of leaders. From the Panhandle to the Gulf of Mexico, our school board members advocate on behalf of our children, strive to provide them the best possible education, and ensure that their needs and those of their parents remain a central focus. In so doing, they pave the way for a better, brighter future for the Lone Star State. Therefore, I, Greg Abbott, Governor of Texas, do hereby proclaim January 2023 to be School Board Recognition Month. So, let's give them a
Thank you so much. Thank you. Now, before we go into routine district operations, we're going to go ahead and jump to the board action items A, which is deliberation and possible approval of annual financial audit fiscal year 2021-22.
Madam President, board members, Madam Superintendent, tonight we have the opportunity to receive and the opportunity for you to vote on approving the annual financial compliance report, which is the audit. The state says the purpose of that audit is to ensure that schools are making sure that they're held accountable for the accountability of the financial practices in the district. Tonight, you will hear the audit report from Casey Gast. She's with the firm of Bollinger, Seegers, Gilbert, and Moss out of Lubbock. This is the third year that the firm has completed the audit for Lamesa ISD, and this is Casey's second year. So the next person you hear is Casey providing that review for us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, good evening. Like Greg said, I am Casey Gaston with Bollinger, Seegers, Gilbert, and Moss, and I was the audit partner in charge of the 21-22 financial audit. I have been with Bollinger Seegers for 17 years, and I have been in school finance that whole time as well. So kind of give a little background on our firm also. BSGM is the largest local firm in Lubbock, and we also do about 42 school districts. So we go all the way from 6A to 1A. So we have some of the big and we have some of the small. So like I said, just kind of some background and kind of credentials on our firm as well. We came out and performed the 21-22 audit about the third week of October. We completed the audit in about 3 days. So kind of what that means is coming in and doing an audit that quick means that the records were really clean. So we were able to provide a very efficient audit based on, kind of what the record account keeping is. Any requests that we required were handled timely. Like I said, any questions that we had, we didn't have really any hiccups. Everything ran really smoothly, so we had a very good audit. So that means the district did receive an unmodified opinion or a clean audit opinion, which basically means in the bound report, hopefully everybody has a copy of the bound report in front of them. All of the financial numbers are free of any material misstatements and can be relied upon by outside parties. Kind of as part of the audit, it's not only just the numbers and the financials, there's also kind of compliance pieces as well that TEA requires. Some of those are strings attached to your foundation money. So basically in your G&T, your career and tech, you have to spend a certain percentage of your allotment on those programs. We can note that we did not have any issues with those compliance areas. Two of the other areas are called maintenance of effort. Basically, whatever you've been spending in certain areas, you have to maintain that same effort. And that'll be in your Title I funds or kind of your ESSA, Every Student Succeeds Act. In your local funds, you have to spend 90% of what you did last year, excluding capital outlay. That's not included in that. And then also in your special ed or your IDEA B, there's 4 different calculations on that, and we can say we didn't have any issues on that compliance side either. So no issues with compliance, clean audit. I always kind of like to tell our boards, an audit's not designed to catch fraud, but we do kind of try to go in and do our due diligence and kind of make sure, that there's not any suspicions of fraud or any awareness of fraud. So we send out inquiries, not just to the business office, but people throughout the district to kind of see if they're aware of any of these items. And we say we didn't have anything we need to bring to your attention tonight. I think if something had occurred, it wouldn't have been tonight. We would have talked about it. It would have been something, when we were alerted. But like I said, we had no red flags in that area. We don't test your internal controls. That's kind of a different a testing engagement. But we will do walkthroughs to kind of make sure some of those key controls are in place and kind of making sure, that if something were to happen, maybe those controls would detect or deter the fraud if it were or fraud or even misstatements if they were to occur. And so we didn't have really any issues on the internal control that we would recommend to management to change either. So like I said, it was a very clean audit and it went very smooth. So like I said, you have the bound copy, but I also have some loose papers. And so I don't like to go over every page. This is a lot of pages in the audit report, so I like to kind of hit the highlights. So you will find a loose sheet in the front that kind of shows a 3-year analytical. So in a governmental audit report, they don't show you comparative financials. So it makes it hard to really look at, what happened in the district compared to prior year. So we like to provide this 3 years to give us a more meaningful analysis when we're looking at the numbers. And like I said, just kind of a visual. So I'll kind of hit some of the highlights going over on this sheet. So kind of starting at the top here, this will be our cash position. And you can see in our general fund, we're kind of the same, 20 million versus the 19.7 in the prior year. Pretty comparable in our debt service. And then you'll notice your capital projects went way down, which is inherently what the capital project fund is supposed to do. You've got your bond money and you're trying to spend that down. So that's what we should see happening there. Other funds were up a little bit, which gives our ending cash position of 22.5 million versus the 30 million in the prior year, with the most of that going down being in your capital project fund. Kind of on the receivables and payables, your receivables, the due from other governments, that's going to be your unreimbursed grant expenditures. So most of your grants are reimbursement basis. So you spend the funds, then you ask for the funds through your grant. Usually TEA is your major one. So last year we had a big ESSER receivable. for that ESSER funding. So that's why you kind of see that drop, because we did the big HVAC project, so we were requesting those funds in the prior year. You are in a state overpayment for your this is for your foundation money, and that's really just a timing thing. So, you know, as you go throughout the year, and TEA is always kind of chewing this number up, and it's really based on your ADA, it's based on your property taxes, so this number can fluctuate, and it's hard to hit sometimes, you know, because even if, you know, you think you're pretty close, you know, a school down in Dallas can miss their ADA by 1,000, and that reallocates to all the district, you know. So just, you know, this is a timing, and y'all kind of have always kind of been overpaid per se, but what they do is you just got the cash now, so you're not going to get that cash for your 22-23 funding. So like I said, a lot of our districts can go in between either an overpayment or a receivable. So no red flags there, but I just kind of wanted y'all to understand what that overpayment was. On your property taxes, this is kind of what you still are owed on property taxes from your taxpayers. And I do believe, you know, you see last year was about $1 million, and this year's $700,000. So it has gone down, but there's still some tax disputes out there that the appraisal district's kind of working through there. So that's why you do kind of have a larger balance in that item. Next will be our fund balances, and this is where all my boards are like, what happened to our fund balance? It did decrease by about $3.7 million, and we'll go over that in the next section. But that's your general fund went down from $22.5 million to about $18.8 million, and that's the current year number. Your debt service remained comparable, and you'll see we have a new line item for food service. So what we saw throughout most of our districts, because of COVID, the Texas Department of Ag was paying a lot more reimbursements per kid. So you were getting a lot more money and still operating at the same cost. So this flipped your child nutrition into the black. And kind of with this, there's also strings attached to this money that if you do have over 3 months in fund balance, they could ask for the money back. We're not in that situation yet. Your 3 months in fund balance is actually about $438,000. So we're good there, but I just wanted y'all to be aware. Most of my districts have never worked in the black on their child nutrition, and in the last couple of years, a lot of them have flipped because of these reimbursement rates. Not to say it can't go back the other way, as you know, TDA may not be reimbursing as much going forward, but just to kind of be aware that what happens when you do have a fund balance in your child nutrition fund. Capital project fund, we kind of hit with cash. The fund balance is going down. You know, as you spend that cash and have those expenditures, the fund balance will also come down on the capital projects. Other funds, very minimal. Sorry, and then total fund balances for all your funds of $20 million versus the $32 million in the prior year. So, any questions on that side of the kind of the balance sheet of all funds? No. Okay. Well, I'll move on to the next section.
I have a quick question.
Oh, sorry.
If a board member was to ask what the fund balance was, say in October, why could not CFO, whoever's in charge of it, give us the fund balance at that time?
Are you asking as a certain date, like as of October, that you should be able to, you know, I mean, but there's still adjustments that are going on, so it's, I mean, but for the most part, you should be able to look at your financials and be able to tell, so I don't know if you have...
Or even have a rough estimate. I mean, maybe not the exact, but I mean...
But you get through the year, and you get up into June, July, whenever you've pretty much shut the school down and you're just making payroll and keeping the lights on. Mm-hmm. At that point, you should be able to...
You probably should be able...
Pretty close, right?
Yeah, I would think so. I'm not a CFO. I've never been in that position. I just know
it's not hard to do.
You should be able to look at it, yeah, and unless you just know there's some crazy outstanding things, but like you're saying, you should still be able to give a rough estimate. No pressure on you over here.
No pressure.
Well, I mean, because I was asking, and then I was told that I could only that the fund balance was the 22.597 as of August 31st of 2021. But I could not be told the fund balance as of October of 2022.
And that should be, you know, if you're getting provided monthly financials, it should be, yeah.
You know, it was going to be around 18-ish 5. Mm-hmm. And then he was being called pretty much a liar. So that's our beef with this is he was on point the whole time, and so now we're seeing it in the audit, and so where do we go from here?
Can I say something?
Yes.
One of the things that Ms. Benavides and I have worked on and working with our Skyward consultant is being able for you guys to ask us for any update at any time when we run it in Skyward. I think the practice has been spreadsheets, and when you're using spreadsheets, someone is taking data from Skyward and input it into a spreadsheet, and what that can cause errors possibly, but it's not pure. And what we've put together so far, and we're going to continue to improve on it by working with you guys on what you want to see and when you want to see it, is the ability for you to call and say, Greg, can you send me that? I run it in Skyward and I email it to you in a matter of minutes if nothing else is on my plate. So that's what we're working towards, and you'll see tonight 4 documents that are in the financial report that should be in the financial report moving forward. 2 of them you've always gotten, the check request and the capital outlay report. But 2 new documents will be presented to you guys instead of spreadsheets. And that way you can call and say, hey, I would like to see that report, and we can run it, as I said, in a matter of minutes. And I say all that to say, I apologize, I thought I would leave my watch. I say all that to say, we believe transparency is very important, and financial accuracy is very, very important. And so we want to make sure that we're honoring that. And the best way to do it is to use the data we have in Skyward to present to you any question you have. If we can't answer it, that's a problem.
And then I think I go back to, and it's nothing on this administration. It's also the prior that the recommendation from the letter we wrote that the prior left with 22 point something fund balance. Well, that was a lie because there wasn't $22 million left when the prior administration left. There was 18,865. It just the audit wasn't out yet. Correct? As of August 31st,
Yes, the number is
18,865. Not
So it's
22.
always been 18.
Is that correct?
As far as I know.
Because 2021 was 22,597.
And the only thing I could think of is we did have a transfer, which you'll see down the bottom. We moved 1.9 from the general fund to supplement the capital project fund, and that may have happened during our audit that management requested to supplement. So you will see 1.9. So if you add 1.9 to your 18.8, that could be where that number was coming from. I'm speculating here.
But in
Well, but the
October,
thing is-
November of
I
22,
can tell.
there's not $22 million in the fund balance.
No, I could tell back whenever I started asking for, when we were in the budget process, and I was asking, we had been asked to approve a $4.5 million budget amendment to cover capital projects. I mean, we were short on the bond, and we were asked to amend the budget by $4.5 million. And then we were asked about a $500,000 pay increase. Okay, in my mind, if you're asking me to spend $5 million, I think as a board, we need to be able to be told where we're at fund balance wise, and that wasn't being done back in. And this was being asking for it in July, a month before year end. And so that's whenever, like Ron said, that's whenever I got on TEA's website, pulled down a payment ledger, pulled down a SOF, Statement of Finance, and I figured out that in my mind it was going to hit between 18 and 19 million, not the 22.6 that we were being told and that everybody was sticking to. And so, now the audit has confirmed that. So I guess my question, like with Ron, is that, am I expecting, as a board member, too much out of those that are in charge of our finances to be able, I'm not saying, there's some business managers that can tell you, at every point during the year where they're at and where they expect to go. But whenever you get to year end and you finish the school year and all you have left is to keep the lights on and write the paychecks, then how am I asking? Is that asking too much for somebody to be able to get? I'm not asking for exact numbers. Just get close.
and I think we even had a conversation kind of an exit, like just give as best estimate. I know, as CFO sometimes they like perfection.
I mean, y'all
So
did
it
it
is
in 3
hard.
days. We were asking over it over months.
Months.
Yeah.
So-
So, at the
It's
end of the
good
day,
to
yes,
get
you
them.
should be able to be provided with that, whether it's a roundabout or saying, hey, this doesn't include this, or be aware this is coming down the line, but absolutely. So,
Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate that.
so we'll go into the general fund side. We're in that middle section there to kind of say, like I said, the fund balance did go down, so this is from the general fund, so this will be why. On your local revenue side, we did have a decrease. We had an increase of 8.1 million versus 7.5 in the prior year. We would have had a decrease because your property tax values did decrease, along with your M&O rate also declined. So with those two factors, you would have expected the local revenues to go down. Well, you were able to request from the available funds at the appraisal district. They were able to give you 1.8 million from those available funds. So that did increase your local revenue there. So that when you have these capital projects, that's what they said. They have those funds out there. You can go and request, and the appraisal district will give you those funds. On the state revenue side, we did have a decrease there, the 12.8 versus the 14.1. So usually what happens if your property values are going down, usually the state aid goes up. But it didn't really in this case because we also had a decline in ADA. So that's really the big driver there. So that's why you did see that go down. So just kind of be aware, you kind of got hit, kind of double whammy with ADA going down and your property values declining. Both of those not in your control, but that is kind of a double whammy when it comes to the school funding. In the federal revenue side, we actually were able to utilize what we call indirect cost on our federal grants this year because the ESSER fundings were so much that you're able to get reimbursement on all those admin costs that you've done in the general fund. So that's what that big increase is. Still considered federal funds, but that's what that amount is and why you see that increase because we were able to go and claim those admin costs.
The majority of those were ESSER.
Yes, ESSER. Yes. Didn't really have anything in your other two line items, so that gets us to 21.7 million in the current year versus 21.9 million in the prior year on your total revenues. So pretty comparable there with everything, all the moving pieces. On the expenditure side, we did see an increase in your instructional, so all kind of those what we call your functional accounting, kind of all of those operational or instructional type items. We did see an increase of 14.5 versus 13.7 in the prior year. And really this is salary increases, and I believe you also purchased a bus. So kind of those two pieces there was the increase on your general admin and really kind of your maintenance and operations. Kind of flat, 5.2 versus 5.3. But I think we had a few more storm damage repairs in the prior year. So that's kind of why we saw a small decrease in that area. On your debt service, this will really just kind of be those kind of notes payable for some of those items that you've finance purchased. And so I think we only have just a little bit left on those. So those will be falling off probably next year, if not the next. Capital expenditures, about the same as prior year, 3.3 versus 3.5. And I believe in here we've kind of got the tennis courts, the softball and baseball fields, and also just some more supplemental, kind of trying to finish out some of those capital project funds. Other payments, very comparable. And then our transfers out, this is kind of what I was saying, I believe y'all decided to move 1.9 out of the general fund to supplement the capital projects fund. I believe that was even kind of something set back when the bond was issued, that the bond was issued at kind of a lower rate, in the general fund, to maybe help it pass, and then that the general fund would supplement the gym at the end. So, like I said, with all those pieces, we did have an increase in expenditures of had an increase in expenditures with the current year being almost 25.5 million and last year being 23 million, which is the decrease of 3.7 fund balance decrease and 1.3 in the prior year. And so what I kind of like to tell my boards also, y'all have had a lot of capital projects going on, really upgrading around the district. And so that's what's kind of your fund balance is cyclical a lot of times. So you'll see you're kind of gearing up and then you need to do some of these big projects. So then your fund balance will kind of come down also. So fund balance is very cyclical in nature. One of the other things I like to point out too is, you're responsible for the taxpayer money. You know, the taxpayer's paying most of, you know, paying their taxes to the district to be used, and so we're not a for-profit company. So like I said, we don't necessarily, you know, you have a healthy fund balance still, you know, 9.3 months, but like I said, I always tell myself, it's a gray area. You know, you want to spend and do the best for your kids, but you don't want to just spend to be spending. So it's kind of walking that line there. So like I said, the fund balance can be cyclical. You've gone, you know, you were up 3 years ago, and then we've declined the 2 years, but we've had major capital projects going on in those 2 years.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
In that year that the fund balance went up,
Mm-hmm.
are you talking about 8/31/20?
Yes.
Would a lot of that though been attributable to the fact that was COVID, and we only ran? I mean, when the school shut down, spring break.
Yeah, and you were
So you
lowering
had a
your
lot of-
admin
You
side.
had a lot of
and-
spring stuff that you weren't paying for. so
absolutely, yes,
that's
yeah.
probably
That's-
part of the reason why that we saw that in that 8/31/20 year.
Yep, that's absolutely probably true. So, like I said, if you're looking, you still have 9.3 months of reserves, is kind of what they call months in fund balance, which means at 8/31, if you hadn't received another dime, then you could operate the school at these levels for 9.3 months. Is really what that means. TEA's rule of thumb is sometimes 3 to 4 is what they consider a healthy fund balance. So, like you said, I was still saying we still have a healthy fund balance there. The next couple line items going down this sheet still, you know, I told you the ADA did decrease. That's that line item. The next one is your state aid. We talked about that decrease that relates straight to the ADA. And then the next section, so you kind of have two assessed tax values because of your 313 agreements that you have. One is for the M&O rate, one is for the INS rate. But we did see both of those come down from the prior year. On our debt service side, pretty comparable. You know, what you're kind of bringing in is what you're able to pay with your bond payments, which is kind of how that INS tax rate is inherently set up to do, you know, to collect the taxes that you need to pay your bond payments.
Can you just define for some of our new board members
Yes.
The difference between M&O and INS?
Okay, M&O is going to be maintenance and operations, so that's the tax rate that you can use for all of your school items. INS stands for interest and sinking, which is basically your debt payments. So those two tax rates function differently. You know, one's you're able to operate school, one's going to go to all your debt payments.
Thank you.
That's fine. Good question. Thank you. And then kind of the next section there is just kind of talking about your capitalization stuff. So your fixed assets, we have net fixed assets of about $69 million. And on the bonds and debt, we have about 22.6 still outstanding. And we'll look at some schedules on the debt there. One other item I like to bring up too is because the district does receive over $750,000 in federal money, that triggers another audit or another compliance audit, which is called the single audit. Y'all are no stranger to these. Y'all have had these over the past several years. Basically, what it means though, we have to go in and do additional compliance testing on certain federal programs. And so this year we did additional testing on ESSER and as well as the child nutrition. So we did not have any issues there or anything that we would have to note in the audit report. So that was also clean on that compliance audit. Any questions on that sheet? I do want to hit some highlights in the actual audit report. I will tell you, if you go to page 1, like I said, I'm not going to go every page. Some people get scared when I say start at page 1. I do want to note there were no changes to really any standards or anything that we had to do auditing wise, but we did have to change the opinion letter. So if you go to look at last year, this opinion letter is going to look different than it did last year. And basically what they did is they took our opinion out of the middle of the letter and put it in the top 2 paragraphs. So now, where they probably should have been the whole time, I think. So this, you can say if somebody asks, you know, what kind of opinion did your district receive, you can see an unmodified opinion, and you can refer them to the first 2 paragraphs of this sheet. So I just kind of wanted to point that out, that is one thing that did change in the audit report was this opinion letter. Really semantics on some wording, but really just kind of moving some paragraphs around. But just wanted y'all to be aware of that. One of the other items I always like to look at is on page 30. On page 30, this is considered part of your footnotes to the audit report. And on page 30, that first table there shows you what your debt service requirements are on your bonds. So it just shows, over the next 5 years and then in 5-year increments after what your obligations are, principal and interest outstanding on your bonds. So total bonds outstanding of 22.4, that's the first column. And then with interest, though, the total is about 33.5. All the way until 2045. These are last until 2045. And then kind of what I told you too, that next section is the notes payable. So really, I think all of these are going to fall off in the next year because you can see we only have, at the very bottom of the page, 1 year left on the maturity for those. So all of those notes payable will be done. One of the other items, kind of be further back, is on page, on page 45. This schedule, TEA does look at this one. This is your budgetary fund balance, or budgetary comparison schedule for the general fund. And so as a board, you were required to adopt a budget at the beginning of the school year. So that's going to be that very first column. The next column is as you go throughout the year and stuff happens, you have to amend the budget because by Texas law, you're not allowed to overspend your budget. And so that's your amended one is in that second column. The third column is what actually happened. And in the final column on the far right there is where you over or under spent, favorable or unfavorable. So TEA is going to look at just that expenditure section. That's all they care about. And you can see those were all favorable variances. So you will not receive a letter from TEA on that. So I just like to let my boards know that, that is something that those budget amendments are very important to do, and it is required. So, I kind of like to look at the third line from the bottom on this as well, the net change in fund balance. So you adopted a balanced budget at the beginning of the year, and then as things moved on, you thought you would be about $4 million deficit, and then we actually ended up at 3.7. So just to kind of, that's one way that you can kind of look at this budget. Yes?
You mentioned a while ago that we adopted an amendment, the June meeting, July meeting, 4.5, and you said that you thought 1.7, 1.9, whatever went to the capital project.
1.9 did.
1.9 went to the capital project, and I may be fixing to ask you a question. You can answer it.
Okay. Thanks for the heads up.
that we need to look at on our end, but my question is if 1. What'd you say again?
1.9 was the actual.
1.9 is what went to the capital project, which is a bond.
Yes.
We adopted a $4.5 million amendment. Where'd the rest of it go?
The amendment you can see on that second column there. You amended it to 1.5. Where that additional, I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, the additional stuff I'm not 100% sure on that side of things.
So you're saying
I'm just kind of curious.
the amendment was for 4 million?
My understanding, and y'all correct me if y'all misunderstood, but my understanding whenever that 4.5 million was presented to us, and we voted on it, that it was to cover the bond.
But all of it was supposed to cover the bond?
That's the way I took it.
But I guess only 1.93 went to it?
So I think it went in two pieces. If you look at function 81, your original was only 79,000, and then the amended was the 3.4. And then on line item 8911, which is that other financing source, or the transfer out, I should say, that's the 1.5. So I don't know if it's within those two pieces, because those both did supplement.
So that's just something that we need to look at.
Yeah, and but those would be probably my two areas I would look at to start with, because it did look like that 81 jumped, and then your transfer out jumped.
8911.
8911, and then function 81. So 81 will be up in the expenditures, and that 8911 is down below the expenditures.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions on the budget side? I had brought up property taxes too, so we do have a schedule on the property taxes on page 55. And it's kind of side to side, so you have to turn the book. And this schedule just kind of shows you your last 10 years. So last 10 years, what the property values for your M&O rate side are. The INS is not reflected in here. It's only the M&O side, so the maintenance and operations side, since those are two different levies. And then also kind of what your tax rate has done, both on the maintenance side and then the debt service side. So, like I said, just kind of gives you a 10-year look, and you know, your values, if you're looking over 10 years, haven't been necessarily as volatile as I've seen at some other districts. So they've stayed pretty comparative, but they are down. So, you know, if you're looking back to 2014, you know, it was about 528 million assessed values, and now it's 439 million. So like I said, something you don't necessarily have a lot of control over, but you know, that's kind of where your property values have gone. And then kind of the far right column will be kind of what's outstanding by year on these taxes. And so you can see, you know, kind of when you get to 20, 21, 22, those are kind of some larger balances. I think COVID, economy, and some of that stuff has affected people's ability to pay. So we did see an increase in a lot of our districts. But there are, I think in these 3 years, some tax disputes too on a larger taxpayer. So just to kind of be aware of that. But that's kind of where you stand and how we're at the $795,000 of property taxes outstanding. And then lastly, I like to just point out our programs on the single audit on page 66. So if somebody were to ask you, you know, what all do you spend or where does all your federal money come from? You can point them to this schedule, and this gives you the breakdown of all of your federal programs and the dollar amounts from those programs. Your ESSER in the current year, that's kind of about the mid-page there. You'll see COVID-19 and the ESSER was about 1.8 million. And then, like I said, we also tested child nutrition, which is closer to the bottom at about 1.4 million. So we tested a pretty good chunk of all the federal money. So any questions on any of that? And then lastly, there is one more handout, and this is just informational purposes. It's side by side. It's kind of what we call kind of our benchmark. And so what this is just showing is I have a lot of boards sometimes ask me, like, how do we stack up to other districts? Well, this will give you an idea on some different benchmarks, how you stack up to, I believe I got your football district and then some surrounding districts. And it kind of shows what happened in the ADA, what general fund balance is, what the expenditures for all the districts were, their months in fund balance, expenditures per kid, the tax rates, how the change in assessed values are at those districts, along with the debt and the debt per kid. And then at the bottom, there is kind of an average for the months in fund balance, and then also the tax rates and expenditures per kid. But like I said, all of this information is out on TEA's website, so I didn't steal it. It's not proprietary. So, but you will notice it is a year behind, so it is the 2021 school year.
Of these, which ones are property rich?
So if they have a star by them, kind of in the middle of the page,
Okay.
that's if that means they paid recapture.
Okay.
So probably the ones you think.
Yes.
You can tell.
Yeah, you can probably tell.
You already said that.
Any other questions?
No, thank you.
Thank you.
I really appreciate y'all giving us the opportunity to present tonight, and had a great working relationship with the district, and we like clean audits also. Makes it easier on us. So I think, do we have the sheets to sign? Or the motion to be done later. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody have any other questions? No?
Good.
Someone want to make a motion?
She's like, good.
I make
So
a motion
good.
that we approve the audit as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Now we'll.
Madam President, can I get
Yes.
the signatures? Casey has to take one with her. You and the secretary. You want to do that one? On the secretary line? Then you switch. Thank you so much. I'll take
Oh, thank you. You're giving it away. Okay.
Have a safe trip back.
Thank you.
Thank
Have a
you.
safe trip back.
Safe. Oh, okay, perfect.
Well, wait for him to come back. Jimmy, go ahead. Okay. I guess we'll go ahead and come back to number 2, routine district operations, with the consent agenda items and minutes.
These were the two board meeting minutes. The second one is that board training that we did, the minutes for that meeting that we did with the TASB representative.
Need to make a motion to approve as presented.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
Hope he's coming back. I can go ahead and, if you want me to do my construction.
Yes, we can go ahead and do that.
Okay.
We'll have a good start.
So my construction update is, we had our regular construction meeting on Tuesday. David Montoya, the supervisor, advised that he was looking at getting the permanent certification of occupancy for the new gym tomorrow from the city. If that happens, then we are good to go on the gym for good. We're good to play games in there for good. Once that we get the CO for the gym, then it'll be available for full usage. At this point, also, once that happens, the middle school students will then start playing their games
Good.
at the middle school.
They're
And
gonna
so,
play them at the middle school?
Yes. The
Oh,
middle
yeah.
school kids will start
They'll
playing
get
at
to
the
play.
Wallace?
yeah, Paulist, right. On the library, somebody go see where he's at. On the library, we toured the construction site of the at the middle school. They did push back the date. Originally had told us that they thought it'd be ready by the end of February. Now they're talking about the end of March in terms of the completion of the
My
library.
apologies.
And was there a reason? Is it just material or what?
Well, I know you guys are going to think this is crazy, but we're still, some of it still has to do with that cabling,
Oh,
for the elevator cabling. We hired the company that they wanted us to hire, which was Elite Solutions. For a while, they had trouble getting the cabling in that they needed, and then I think the cabling was in. But then they were able to, they figured out that some of the cabling they could keep and save us money.
Mhm.
So they're going through that process. So I think they're gonna be able to save us about $15,000.
Mm.
So I can't
yeah, we can't
too
complain.
much because I, but anyway, they're still working on that. And now they've moved, they were trying to get the gym finished, and so now that that's finishing up, they're starting to move some of their crews over to get that done. So, but we're gonna be monitoring that project a little bit more closely. And also, Mr. Nelson and I are in the process of setting up a meeting with the insurance representative so that we can try to firm up our resolution on how much they're going to be paying moving forward, because I don't believe we have that yet. We don't have anything written on how much the insurance or what the insurance is willing to pay for at this point for the library. So we've got to get that firmed up in terms of putting it in writing. So we'll let you all know as soon as we get that information. Okay.
Is that it? Done. Is that it?
That's it. Yeah, we can go back to
Okay. We'll go ahead and Mr. Nelson.
So my apologies.
Yes.
Got lost in
Financial.
time. So it's for the presentation tonight. I want to share with you the reports that we discussed earlier. I'm going to go one at a time and kind of walk you through the report and the purpose of the report, and then any questions that you might have about that particular report. First one I'm going to share with you is this one. It's the general fund report, and I'm not very good at blowing it up yet.
They don't like using new font.
Sir?
They don't like using very big font.
Yeah, this is a Skyward report, so the font is really small. But you all have that in your,
Mhm.
yeah,
We have it.
you have access to it.
Right there. That might help a little bit. Hopefully you can see it, but you do have access to this report of the attachments that I shared with you. The board book, it's the fourth one, is where we're starting. Next month and in the future, it will be the first one, because it's the order that we will go through those. This is what we're gonna call a budget update report. It's gonna let you know by function and a function description where the original budget was. That's what you'll see in column one, the revised budget, that's the approved budget. The second column, you would see an item that will indicate how much activity of that budget has already taken place. The third column is how much happened in the previous month, the month that we're reporting on. The fourth column is encumbered amounts, things that we've ordered or in process but haven't been paid yet. So if you have an amount that's already been paid, the total, but you have this smaller amount hanging on, you know how much you have left, unencumbered, that's in the fifth column. And then that final column will show you, for that budget, what percentage have we spent. So an example, when we get to December, we're about midway through the year. How much of that budget have we spent? 20% or 80%? Kind of lets us know where we are. Now, it's not a problem if you spend 80% on curriculum materials and textbooks and things like that, but it might be a problem if you spend 80% in December on utilities. So this is a report that can kind of let you know by function every account that we have and where we are in our total district spending. So you probably had a chance to look at that. Any questions about that particular report? And we can run that report at any time. It's not just a monthly report. We can run it up to that date, but it will be in your regular board update.
We're good. We're good.
Okay.
Thank
I'm new to Apple, so I have to navigate. Give me just a second. Richard, let me get back here. Okay. The next report I want to share with you is the opposite. It's the revenues. And so I showed you the first one, which is the budget, where money's been allocated, where money's been spent, where money's available. This report here will show you by category the revenues that we have designated for the budget. The first one you can't see over there yet. Let me see if I can get there. The top one, 57, is local revenues. And as you can see for the year, we planned about $7 million in local revenues. You can see the state program revenues about $12 million, almost $13 million actually. And then federal program of about $300,000 for a total of $20,000. Now the unique thing about that is kind of to what you guys were talking about before. If you put both of those reports side by side, you would see that for this year, the year we're operating in, we had revenues of about $20 million, actually $20,400,000, but we plan to spend $23,600,000. So that means we're spending more than we're bringing in, and the plan for that was due to construction, repairs, and those kinds of things. So about $3,200,000, if we pay everything that we plan to pay, would be about $3 more million from fund balance. So that's kind of what the plan was. As you can see, that will decrease the fund balance more when we have next year's audit to what we estimate to be about $15 million.
Yeah.
But the good news is, as she said, right now fund balance is about 9.3 months. TEA recommends 3 to 4, and so even then we'll still be in a really good position with the fund balance. If that helps at all.
It's nothing against y'all. I mean, it's nothing against y'all, but that's what we were told. Mr. Telchik was saying the whole time in August and September where we were getting our heads chewed off and called names and just being the bad people. That's what he was saying.
Well, and we knew all along that we can get that report through Skyward. We just couldn't understand why they wouldn't just
We were
give it
asking
to us.
for it.
Well, I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
No,
What
it
is
didn't.
what is your opinion, attitude, feeling on? I mean, you said that basically we've got, and I'm basing this on what I was told as far as what it costs to operate the district on a monthly basis last year. I know that's 21-22, and I know it's probably different for 22-23.
I would assume, yes, sir.
But looking at that. I was figuring like for 22-23, I'm figuring about 9 months worth of operating money in fund balance.
Yes.
Whereas based on these numbers that the auditor confirmed tonight, that calculates out to about 11 months. What's your opinion as far as, I mean, I know what TEA says, been there, done that. They've got that minimum requirement in that 3 to 4 months reserve.
Yes.
Personally, my opinion, we should keep 10 to 12 months worth of operating, in fund balance. And that's all, I've just kind of had that, that's just my personal opinion, that a good rule of thumb is to keep 10 to 12 months worth of fund balance, or worth of monthly operations in fund balance. What's your opinion? I mean,
I don't really think I know enough to offer an opinion on that, but I can tell you that over my 30 years working in 4 different districts, boards always felt more comfortable, and administrations always felt more comfortable when you had more months of fund balance because of emergencies, whatever that might be. And I think if I were a board member or an administrator and we only had 3 months, I think I'd be a little bit uncomfortable. But I also understand from the perspective of the community, sometimes they ask, well, why is this district holding on 12 or 15 months?
Sure.
They need to use that money for some of these things that are needed in our schools. And so it's a delicate balance. And as board members, you have to walk that fine line to make sure you're not saving too much and not meeting the needs of the kids, but you're also not overspending and not prepared for an emergency. So it's a delicate line.
So-
and that's why we elected you to make those
And what was
decisions.
she saying, that if we kept too much, that they will ask for money back? Or
That was in cafeteria.
okay,
That was cafeteria.
And years ago, the state frowned upon districts that had too much in fund balance if they were asking for a tax ratification election. It was somewhat of a negative that you have 12, 13, 14 months in fund balance, but you're asking the taxpayers for more money. I don't know that still is the prevailing thought, but that was something that we had to deal with at the time because we had several TRAs that failed. And when they failed, that was one of the things that would be published. Well, you have 9, 10, 12 months of fund balance. Why are you asking the taxpayers for more money? So it's a fine line.
my concern is 8/31/21 fund balance was at 22,600,000. Here we are, 8/31/22. Now it's dropped to 18.5, or excuse me, 18,865. 18,865. And if, like we've discussed, if budget holds, hopefully maybe something will turn, or like we were talking the other day, like with the ESSER money and stuff, maybe we can make it better. But right now, the way the budget is, if it holds, then we're looking at taking another $3 million out of fund balance. And so that's
22 to 15.
22 to 15, in a 3-year span, and that concerns me.
But I offer this, some of the best facilities I've ever seen in my
Sure.
30 years.
Sure.
Hands down, regardless of classification, just amazing facilities. And I don't know. It's
That's
a small price
That's
to
what
pay
I
for.
mean. I think if my problem is if we were to tell, look, we're going to be at 15.8 by this time next year, but we're spending this much this year, this much next year. We're going to have these facilities. This is what it is. This is why we're doing it. A bit more open. Not, we can't provide that for you. We don't know. We don't this. I mean, quit playing games. We're appointed or elected to ask these questions. We want the numbers. Download it from Skyward or whatever. It's not that we're coming after you. We want to know that the balance is dropping, and we see it is. He does this for a living. I mean, so there's something to it. I mean, just tell us we're getting great facilities, and we know that, and we love it. Just don't hide it. I mean, and I think that's our concern here is we knew it was happening, and it just wasn't being told, and then now it's coming to fruition.
That's why I asked the question of the auditor about, in that, was it the June board meeting when we had that 4.5 million amendment? Or was it July? July? My understanding was that 4.5 million finish the bond out. And now she says, the auditor said that only 1.7 million was the capital projects fund. So what was the rest of it used to cover? Where's it
We
at?
can do some
Try to
research
find
and
out.
and give you more details for sure, yes.
Yeah, we could try to find
I mean, it went somewhere.
it went somewhere, yeah, and we should be,
So
yeah. We have somebody that can possibly help us track that down, it's information that you all want. We'll look into it.
But thank you, feel free to reach out to me anytime, do the best I can and get you
Thank
the
you.
information as quickly as possible. Thank you.
You just, yeah, thank you.
The other two, there were two more.
Oh, the
Yeah.
other two are the check register, I mentioned those, that's the first and the second. That's gonna show every transaction, in the check register, and then the other is the capital outlay report. But we put everything in that report as well, that's the 66XX account. Next month, I'm gonna try to change up the titles a little bit to make it more user-friendly, but, they speak for themselves. If you have any questions about them, feel free to ask.
I do have a question about the skid steer.
About what,
The
sir?
skid steer bought for 65,000.
Okay,
Are you on the general register? I mean, the
On
check
the
register?
check register
Mhm.
on December 2nd.
December
It
2nd.
was probably bought, in October or November around there. Is that not something we'd have had to approve
it was over 50.
because it's
Yeah,
over
because over
50,000?
50.
Can you tell me the vendor?
South Plains Implement,
But what was it paid on, out of?
60517 was the check
Was it
number.
operating?
Did you say South Plains?
So we would have had to be given that.
Mhm. It's the very first item on there.
What page number, sir?
One,
Page 1, okay.
very first item.
The kids steer?
Skid steer with trench and auger.
Oh, I see. I'm sorry, I was looking at the wrong report. Oh, yeah, you should have approved that. But,
Anybody?
No,
now that's when it was paid,
no.
was in December, the
Right.
month
It
of
wouldn't
December,
matter
but
if it's
it had to
something
have
that
been
we,
approved before that.
over 50.
And I know that when I was here, and it was never, no one ever asked to put that on there.
There it is. So the capital outlay report.
I mean, I know it
That
hasn't
would
been on an
typically
agenda item
require-
since I've been on the board.
I believe your limit for approval is what, 50,000?
50,000 out of
I don't know the
operating.
history for this. I can pull it tomorrow to see what the history is, and we can look back at the previous board meetings to see if and when it was presented, but sorry. I
Because it
can't
would
answer
have, I mean, that would have taken place back in what, October or September when we mentioned that?
I'll go back and look at the minutes and look at also the agenda items and see what was in there in the previous months before this to
Okay.
figure out why this came through and you guys didn't approve that, cause it is 50,000. I think we've had that discussion. I don't know
We
how
did.
many
Several
times.
times.
Unless they divided it. I mean, it could have been divided. You bought the skid steer on one, and trencher on one, auger on one, and then just paid it as one, but still that's. Hey,
That's
Still
one,
50,000.
one hold, yeah.
And I don't remember signing off on a $65,000 expenditure. I mean, no one, I've never.
Thank you. I don't, December 2nd, I just saw it.
Is there anything else? No. So I want to make a motion to approve the financial.
Make a motion to approve as presented.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. I guess now we'll go into Ron or Cindy, one of them. Now we'll go into administrative reports.
Okay, administrators, let's see, Mr. Hanaway.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. I know y'all created a contest now. Who can do the flyer?
Now they're
North is hard to beat.
Yeah.
Gotta.
North does a
This
great
one's
job.
good though. This one's good.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
First of all, in honor of Board Appreciation Month, I just want to take a minute to thank you and recognize the service that you guys are doing in this community and our schools, and appreciate it. I know it's a hard, thankless job, but what you do matters, and thank you so much for your service.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Real quickly, because I didn't get to present in December, I want to walk you through kind of the last week of December. We had a great last week of December that we were in school. We had a Christmas program Monday the 19th for our first and second grade. It was the same night as the senior serve, and the kids did amazing. We also, on the 21st, we had a Santa visit and story time in the gym, and then we had all of our Christmas parties and everything, and so it was a really fun time. As of today, we have 399 students enrolled, and the breakdowns on there, we had 12 in early education, 83 in pre-K, 100 in kinder, 109 in first grade, and 95 in second grade. We're back in the swing of things, doing middle of year MAP testing and TPRI testing this week and next week. On January 31st, we'll celebrate our 100th day of school. It's always fun. Kids get to dress up, and you see a lot of old people and things stuck to shirts and everything, but it's a lot of fun. I want to take a minute to talk about the dedication ceremony that we have coming up. Of course, I know you guys have purchased a plaque for it, and we're real grateful. I know our staff's, real grateful for that gesture. On February 10th at 2:15, and I'll send you guys an invite, so don't think you have to remember all of this once it gets closer. But February 10th at 2:15, I've been in touch with her family. We're going to invite you guys. We're going to have a nice memorial service with some speakers and a balloon release, and we'll take them. We have a canvas and a plaque, and we'll take you guys by and show you where it'll be hung and everything. So that's coming up February 10th, and like I said, I'll make an invitation program and send it out to you guys probably around the end of the month, just to expect that, okay?
That's on a Friday?
Yes, ma'am. Friday, February 10th at 2:15. And then that following Monday, we will have our big Valentine's Day ball. It's always a big thing at South, so that'll be a lot of fun. Seeing all the kids, they dress up. Last year when it was like, oh my gosh, this is like prom for little kids, but it's so much fun. They love it. They dance. They have some cookies and punch, and it's a great event. So that's kind of what's going on with us. Do you have any questions or anything?
What kind of testing did you say y'all were going to do?
We do our middle of the year MAP and TPRI.
What is TPRI?
So it's basically a literacy screener. So like first grade right now, we have a mandatory dyslexia screener that we do, and it just shows kind of where our kids are. It'll measure their growth and progress on things.
What happens if, once you see the growth, we don't see,
Mm-hmm.
say if there's a student we don't see growth, what happens?
Sure.
What do they do?
So we meet about it, we discuss it, and we come up with a plan moving forward. For kids that aren't, we do risk meetings.
Mm-hmm.
So we look at potential extra intervention, like tier 3 intervention and tier 2 intervention and things like that.
Now, under MAP testing, that's kind of the same, just to see where they're at.
Mm-hmm.
Do these babies, it's be hard to do tutoring, so how do we implement that?
So we do tutoring actually for second grade. We've been doing that since we've come back from Thanksgiving break.
Right.
So we do tutoring for second grade. So for pre-K, obviously they do something totally different. But starting in first grade, we start doing, really all the way we start doing tier 2, but starting in first grade, we start doing tier 3 instruction with pull-outs with interventionists and things of that nature.
Awesome.
So is your tutoring part of the tier program? Or?
No, it's an additional thing. So like if a student's in tutoring and they're in tier 3, then they'll get their tier 3 time, and then they'll also get tutoring with the teacher.
So tutoring during your class periods, or is that after?
So the tutoring is after school from 3:45 to 4:45.
So what kind of attendance are you getting?
Pretty good.
Pretty good.
Yeah, it's a pretty good turnout.
Do we communicate? How do we communicate with parents as far as does it just grades, or do we make a phone call hey, we don't see a growth right here. This is what we're going to
So
do.
and some of it is when we get the data back from the testing, we'll
Right.
be able to kind of better refine who's
Needs
basically
some
right
follow.
now it's based on the original scores, teacher opinions and feedback, and tier 2, tier 3. We kind of have those discussions about who would benefit the most from going to tutoring.
But I know that you guys have had parent-teacher conferences. I think was it a half day
In October.
in October that the school had a half day, but the other half of the day the teachers were calling parents and scheduling parent conferences, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
And then anytime a parent wants information or wants to have a parent conference, we, make sure that we make ourselves available to give them any information that they might want or need. And then we also, I know, communicate with them when we send out letters for them to attend tutorials. Those letters went out, kind of expressing to the parent that the child needed a little extra, extra help, and so they were being selected to attend the tutorials after school. So
Thank you.
thing.
It's challenging getting them babies where they need to be.
Especially since the test is getting more,
Yes, harder.
it's just more difficult. Over time, the curriculum has been what they call pushed down. So back in our day, what we learned in, third grade is now they're learning it closer to second and maybe even in first grade, so all of that's been pushed down. So it's, the curriculum is a lot more difficult now than it used to be, back when, I think we were doing multiplication like in fifth grade. Well,
Now we're doing it.
if you don't know your multiplication, you're not doing multiplication by fifth grade, you're way behind.
Yes.
We're way behind, so we had to push down the curriculum. So.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Oh, did you get one? Okay.
Next we have Ms. Watson. Oh, she has a packet.
I know. I almost didn't come with it, but she was mad. I told them I wasn't, and then I came over to yours.
Thank you.
So same thing as Hanoi. Thank you for everything you do. Just like everything, it's a thankless job sometimes, and so I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Enrollment wise at North, we are at 338. We were 343 last year, so we're a little down from last year. Third grade, we're at 91 students. Fourth grade, 126, and fifth grade, 121. So UIL students competed in December. And we had 33 students place, and so we got overall second place. And so we plan to, once we get the ribbons and the awards in, to have an assembly for those kids, and then have kind of like a celebration for them to try to get either more kids involved or just show them our appreciation for it, because they do go and they work hard and all that stuff. We did map testing this week, and we are really working on trying to get students to, with the STAR test coming up, the new thing is that it's 1 day long, and that's all they get. It used to be 4 hours, so it's extended for a full day. So we really worked on helping the kids understand their time and trying to get them to, for some, we got to get it done in a day, and for some, it's don't rush, you have time. So we've done a lot of that this week. We will have a parent meeting next Tuesday to talk about grading guidelines. So that we can just kind of update the parents on our updated guidelines, and then I'm also going to have teachers there available to talk about their correction procedure for their class, just so parents have all the information they need before we get report cards in. And then we are gearing up for our third and fourth grade student council. Our sponsors have done an amazing job with that, and so we're probably going to have class representatives and do all of those things. So. Do you have any questions for me? With your map testing, will you be able to see the transition from second to third grade to see how that went, or would you need to, how does that work? It was a big conversation at the beginning of the year because there's two different types of map tests. There's a K through 2, and then I think there's a 2 through 5 back there. And so I think right now our second grade is on K through 2. And so that is one of our big questions, is how does that translate to help us when they get to third grade? Right. Because it is a big jump and it's tested. And so we are still looking into that. Okay. Awesome. Thank you. Do you have any other questions?
How are the kids enjoying that new playground?
Oh, they love it. They hang all over it. They stick their heads in places, and we're like, hey, calm down. And then there's a part that it doesn't connect. It's really weird, and they try to swing across, and we have to calm them down, but they love it. It's really
Some of them were complaining, saying, "Well, why didn't we get swings? South got swings, and we didn't."
Y'all
are older.
I was worried about swings.
Yeah.
The nurse is gonna be busy. Yes.
I know.
Yeah, I know. I said, "No, you don't need
It's
swings."
just January, but we've had problems like on the fields and stuff. Are we gonna spray for pre-emergent for stickers and stuff?
Yes, they already
South and
worked
north.
on like tilling up that back part, and so and we've talked with our maintenance about trying to find a solution because it gets
It's getting
really
bad.
bad.
We've been that way.
Yeah, it was bad last, yeah.
Yeah, but it's my understanding, what my grounds people have always told me is it has to do with watering. You have to water in order to keep the stickers away. If you don't water, that's when you get stickers.
Oh, so we need to start watering it more.
Watering.
That's
Well, and because payday's coming up, you know, at the end of the year, and it's always
Yeah,
a
but-
miss then.
But we can, I mean, they can till it up and,
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think we need to go turf.
That's
We don't have
a-
any more
that's
county.
a dangerous thing to say.
Did you see our fund balance?
Don't even go there.
Okay, Miss Jasper.
County improvement.
He's gonna be like, really?
Poke the bear.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for all you do. We know that your time is priceless. That's one thing you can never get back, and you dedicate a lot of time to our district and our community. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
I did not come with packets. The last few times I brought packets, I didn't talk. So I didn't know if I was gonna get to talk today, so I didn't make packets. It was busy today too.
You brought gifts though.
Okay.
Thank
good.
you.
I'm
Yes.
good. I'm good. Okay.
You bring that, you bring gifts like that every time?
All right. I can do that.
Give me a second.
And we'll start with our attendance. It's 94%. I was really impressed with that because in December we were sending a bunch of kids home with the flu and stomach bugs. So I really thought that was going to be a lot lower than what it was. But I was pretty impressed because the last time I presented, we were at 97%. So that was good. Our enrollment's 335. We have 97 sixth graders, 127 seventh graders, and 111 eighth graders. We've gotten some new EL speakers into our building, and we have a new TA that's working specifically with those. I'm really excited about that because the EL students, they come in, especially when they come in from Mexico and they don't know English, it's really hard for them to adapt to our school. And this year we had one student who was in that position, and they wound up taking her out and going back to Mexico because it was so hard for her. So we started thinking, how can we make things better for these kids? Because it's better for them to get an education here. We want to keep them here. We don't want to lose them. And so we have a new lady working with us, and she's been a godsend for our kids. They feel very comfortable with her. It gives them an outlet. She's following them around classes, so they're getting the instruction they need. And our teachers who are bilingual are able to really work with those kids, but then they're also getting the assistants in classes who do not have a bilingual teacher. So that's my thing that I'm very excited about, and I hope to see that program grow.
Yes.
And that program is how they check progress for them, right? Like with
Well, we have
the
an ESL
that-
program, and she's working in that program. But she's a teaching assistant who's going around and following through the day. So they're
Right.
getting the confidence that they need to be able to be successful in the classroom, despite their language barrier.
Right.
And so,
Okay.
I've seen our newest little girl. You know, I kind of walked around following her yesterday, and she's happy. She's excited to be there. She's not frustrated, and that's important to me
Right, of
because
course,
I want
yeah.
the kids to feel welcome there.
Mhm.
They want to feel like they're part of the, the school.
Yes.
And so-
And she's with the kids all day long?
No, she's in general
Just with the
population
one,
with
yeah.
everybody,
Okay,
but it's
gotcha.
not intimidating to her. You know, like
Mhm.
when you come in, I always think like if I went to Germany, how intimidating it would be because I wouldn't be able to speak the language. I wouldn't be able to communicate my needs simply going to the restroom.
Yeah.
You know, that's intimidating. And so that just gives them the peace of mind that they need to feel comfortable while they're with us.
Thank you.
And basketball, it's getting better. You know, they work hard every day. I've gone to some of the practices. I see them. They're working on their drills and stuff like that. We've been doing okay with that. We have a lot more students requesting to go into athletics. Now that it's the new semester, they can request schedule changes. And so I think that's exciting for the athletic department. We're also starting our first little school newspaper. We're having a journalism class. It's kind of like a pilot class just to see how it will go. We have 10 kids that we're going to select that will go in there. We had them fill out an application, and we're interviewing them tomorrow. We have them take pictures just to see that they take it serious because it's something that I want to be successful. And if it works out well, then maybe next year it's an elective that we can offer for our kids. because that's another thing that I would like to try and offer more electives for next year, just so our kids have choice. Right now, we don't have a lot of choices for them, and so
would this be something extra that they do, or
like
or
just
would they
like
have to give up
After
an elective?
school or?
no, it's during school.
During school?
Okay.
It'd be per grade.
Yeah, so it's like it incorporates creative writing. They'll be writing,
Yeah.
they'll articles, stuff like that. I'm also having them transcribe it into a bilingual newspaper, so it'll be in both English and Spanish. So then that will help. You know, I mean, it's just gonna help a lot of ways, and just give kids confidence, because when they're taking ownership of their school, they're getting to talk about trends, what's happening on campus, what's going around. Talk about testing, things that can help them, just different articles, and just empower them a little bit more.
Oh, that's awesome.
I want to subscribe to that.
Okay. I'm hoping we can find a way to print and be big, but you know, we gotta start small, take baby steps.
Yes.
And then, like Miranda said, we're also participating in map testing. I'm new to map testing, so I can't tell you a whole lot. Every district I've been at, we've never done it, so I'm learning this year. I do know that there's a lot of benefits that come with it. Our kids worked really hard. We had a schedule set out for them, thinking that this is how much time that they needed. We went beyond that time schedule, so that tells me they worked hard on it. And so we just kind of adjusted our schedule to their needs these last couple of days, and then tomorrow we'll have makeup testing for the kids that weren't there. But I feel like they did a good job and worked hard.
As far as communication with the teachers, I know we do it through an app, right? What is it? The Parent Square. Do you feel like it's parents, like, I guess, use it, or we get a lot of communication from parent to teacher through that app? Is it easier? How do we have a lot of parent involvement when it comes to? I know it's hard for me to use that.
I use it.
I'm like,
I
I can never figure it out. But
my teacher, you know, I don't see everything that
No,
goes
right, of
out, you know,
course.
but my teachers have a big response, and I know when I send stuff out, we have 338 people subscribe to
Awesome.
what I send out.
Mhm.
So that's not bad,
Right,
in my
right.
opinion. And
Well, that's pretty good,
parents
yeah.
can communicate
That's
with
great.
me, so it works
Right.
from what I see.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay.
And then we're also going to have a parent meeting to discuss the grading guidelines that we have implemented, and we also are going to have all of our teachers, you know, in-house for that meeting, so parents can feel free to ask questions if they have any questions.
Do you know what day that will be?
We're having it Wednesday at 5.
No,
Miss-
next. Okay.
Ms. Benavides, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
I mean, you can answer as well. Is there a way to get a response on that? On like, do they have to show up, the parents? Because I think that new grading policy is a big deal, and I think
For
once it really hits and they explain it, and she doesn't show up, and he doesn't show up, and Ernest doesn't show up, but Rebecca did, and they're mad about something. Is there like, what do you do in that case? Hey, I didn't. What is this? You know.
Yeah,
Did
and
you
that's
have
what
an
I
email?
I mean,
I sent
I
sent
yes.
an email.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've seen all her stuff come
Okay.
through, and I
3
check that
times.
Parent Square daily.
Yeah, I sent mine several times.
But-
Yeah.
yeah, so
I thought I saw
basically
it,
we
and I was-
can't force parents to be there,
Yes.
but that's the conversation we had, when we talked about how we were gonna disseminate the information.
Yes.
I said, we're gonna disseminate it 5 different ways,
Yes.
and then when you do have a parent that shows up and says, I didn't know, then you can say,
Yes.
ma'am or mister, we sent it this way,
Yes.
this way, this way, this way. How can we communicate with you where you will get
Yes.
it? And that's all we can do.
Because I know she sent it out 2 or
Yeah.
3 times
Yeah.
already, and then I've seen it. I think where Frankie puts it on the website, or the ISD, put it on Facebook, and I've seen it multiple times. But I just know that
And the other
somebody's
thing,
going to say that.
You know, weekly teachers are supposed to be sending home just a message
Yes.
saying grades have been upgraded or they have been revised in the system so that parents can go in there.
Yes.
So hopefully that constant communication that we're looking at grades are important, that eventually even those parents that don't, aren't connected as much will eventually come on board. I just don't know how else other than, if they're not, right nowadays, electronically, if you're not connected, then it's
Yes,
hard for
ma'am.
us to communicate. I mean, I guess last ditch effort, we could send it home with the kids. I don't
Have
know.
fun.
But I know the high school kids, they end up throwing them away.
Middle
The
school
flyers
too.
in middle
You
school.
see
Yeah,
it
that's
in
all
the
I'm
trash
asking.
or the hall.
They don't get to
I'm already mad I didn't hear about this new photography thing. I'm about to go grill Katie.
I know.
And we-
Did you sign up?
What age?
It's open to all grade levels, and we talked about it the first day that we came back from school. We had grade level meetings, and we talked about the new grading guidelines, and we explained why we're doing the new grading guidelines, because they need to know that this is all about the students and they need to take ownership of their education.
It
Because
is.
at the end of the day, you can't get their grades, their parents can't make their grades, I can't make their grades. It's up to them.
Exactly.
And so when we had our meeting, we talked about, like if you have an A in math, you think you're rocking it, right? But then you come and you take a test and you make an F or you're not passing, then you're starting to think, well, what's wrong with me? Well, it's not lining up. So that tells your grades that you get in class on your daily work is going to tell your teachers what you need so that they can help you. But it also tells you what you need to do to step up your game because it needs to even out and it should. So we explained that in detail and we talked to the kids about it. They should have went home talking about that too. So, because some of them were like, oh man, they didn't like it very much, but we explained the why behind it. And then they bought in more, because at the end of the day, they want to know how they're doing so that they can get the help they need. And some kids have come and asked for tutorials and we put them in them.
Yes.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you for everything you
Thank
do.
you.
Excited for everything you're
Appreciate
bringing to middle school. I appreciate it.
Last but not least,
Oh my goodness.
Mr. Rich.
This is really just schedules. So I would listen more than look, but we have a lot of our spring stuff kind of getting going, and they appreciate it when y'all show up. What's that?
Have to put that together for you.
I do this. Happy would never approve of multiple colors. I ran out of blue. I will echo what the three of them said. Thank y'all for everything you guys do. It's not an easy job that y'all signed up for. And if it was easy, everybody'd be doing it. And so just know that you guys are very appreciated. Thank y'all for coming earlier today. Thank y'all for being good sports. The kids had a blast. And they like getting to show off what they learned. So thank y'all for doing that. It was
Thank you for
fun.
the presentation.
Yes,
You did, guys.
That was a wax.
Y'all guys.
You
set that standard.
I lost some
Now
hair.
it's the award. That was
As long
awesome.
as no pictures show up on the internet of us getting arrested.
Yeah,
I
Mr. Tucker, I'm
have
sorry,
every
but I had
one of
to
y'all
provide
on
one
here.
from Mary Elizabeth for the paper. I'm kidding.
No.
Our enrollment is
I haven't.
501. We're still pretty big over there at the high school. Our 10th grade carries us. There's 151 10th graders. 129 ninth graders, and then it gets littler in our upper class, and 112 11th and 112 11th and 109 12th. We had 2 more academy graduates. I think every time I've gotten to talk, I've gotten to brag, and we had a new graduate. We had 2 more. We take pictures with them, and I don't know, we send them to Frankie, he puts them on Facebook. Guys, those kids are proud of themselves when those, and I've talked about Academy Life, those are the kids that at some point in their life have been told and thought they were never going to graduate high school. So the day they do is a big day for them. Daisy Gonzalez and Blake Hunt. Blake Hunt literally just graduated on Monday. And that kid, I was just very, very proud of. Sports that are going, basketball's in full swing. We are 21-2 with our boys right now, which is impressive. 4-1 in district. We are sitting second, but tomorrow night at Littlefield's 5-0. So really the winner of that game is in first place. If we lose that game, then there'll be some ties and stuff, but we're just going to focus on winning that game. Our girls are sitting at 13-14. They're 3-3, and they're sitting third. And guys, if you've watched our girls play from the beginning to the end, they are getting better and better, a lot like what Ms. Jasper was saying about her middle school kids. And all of our games are competitive now. Our girls' basketball has come a long way, and it is continuing to progress in the right direction. So I'm real proud of Coach Jones. And man, if they make the playoffs, if they can just beat the same people that beat the first round, which basketball, if you played it, it's a lot about where you play. When you play at Brownfield plays a lot better, and when we play at Lamesa plays a lot better. So our goal is to kind of just win 3 more games, get them in the playoffs, and that would be a huge victory for them. Softball started practice last Friday. Baseball starts this Friday. Spring goes fast. Golf is already practicing, and they start their meets pretty soon. Their schedule is in there. And tennis, actually, our JV tennis had a practice match yesterday. So it's fully operational over there. BPA has their next competition January 27th, And then skills comes right after that, February 24th. Band is competing right now. I'm waiting for Miss Carry On to text me. She'll text me at the end of the night to tell me how many of our students made all region. We had 50 kids going to try out for all region today. And then in February, they'll flip right to solo ensemble. And Miss Carry On pretty much makes all of her band kids at least attempt solo and ensemble, which I have 2 kids that I think benefit from that, so I think that's important. Because even if you're not good, you need to learn what it's like to have to compete, prepare, and succeed and fail. Because that's what life is all about. And then after that, they'll get back together and get ready for their big solo ensemble. You guys heard Helen talk about it today, where you go and you sight read and you perform. Band stays busy all year long. Senior serve, a lot like Mr. Hanaway. I haven't seen y'all really since Christmas, but our senior serve, thank you to those that came. It was a big success. We got some kinks to work out before next year, but man, we ended up making a lot that's going to help what I want to do with those seniors. And those seniors had a blast. And I think I told a lot of y'all, they were just deadly nervous when they showed up. And at the end of it, they were like, Coach Richard, can we do this every night? And I'm like, no, we are not doing this every night. But they just enjoyed it. It was their families. And when you walked around, especially the early ones, when you walked around, it felt like a restaurant. I had a family of 12 that I felt like hadn't had a family meal in forever. They were just laughing and just having a really good time. And then I had a table of 2. That were literally felt like they were on a date. It was just a really cool deal. So I'm glad we started that, and thank y'all for your support on that. I'm going to let you ask me questions, and I'm going to call Ms. Watson back up because she didn't present that, and I think that the card with all the North kids is pretty awesome. So I want her to come talk about that.
By the way, did you do the bottom one?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
We're having our parent meeting Monday. We'll have it the same skill as everybody else. We also are MAPS testing. MAPS, and I know Jasper said it's new to her. It's actually really pretty new to all of us. The district hasn't been doing it very long, and so we're still figuring out. I've talked to people in other districts that say it pays great dividends, but it just takes you a couple years to figure out exactly how to use it to its best. To use it at its best. But we'll get there. And like they both said, you kind of start changing the way you do your testing. Your star gets closer and it becomes longer because testing is also about duration, stamina, and you got to start putting more selections for them to read because they're not just going to read one and answer something. They're going to have to read 2 or 3. And you guys know as kids get older, that becomes harder on them because kids don't read like they used to, when we were little. And that's another thing we're all trying to work on all our campuses by pushing our libraries. So a lot of good things happening. I did want to backtrack one thing because I wrote it over here in the side. If you've never been to Coach Moreland basketball practice, you need to go because I had forgot about it. And I did the same thing when I coached football, but I just think it's kind of cool. And his kids do it automatically. If you walk in to watch his practice, they stop immediately, and every one of those young men come over and shake your hand, look you in the eye, and tell you thanks for coming to our practice. And I went today looking for a kid who was in trouble, and I forgot when I opened the door, I had to deal with the wave of young men coming to shake my hand. But I mean, those are things that they don't always get taught everywhere. And I got a job off of a handshake one time. I went to a grocery store when I was in high school, and I was looking for a job, and the manager came up. And I shook his hand, and then when I didn't even have to interview, he said, because of your handshake, I knew you were a good worker, so he hired me. And I just like that in the middle of basketball practice, we're teaching those young men something that will help them in life and help them be successful. So y'all should just go in sometime and see it.
What time does their practice usually start?
They typically practice right at 4 o'clock.
4 to 6.
So that's what I have. We've just got a lot going on. But again, thank you for what you do. Thank you for showing up today. That was a lot of fun. And questions from me.
I think we drilled you enough earlier, so.
Do you want us to poke you? You escaped it.
We ran out of time.
Yeah.
I was totally fine with that.
Yeah,
So-
the next board meeting, we'll have
Mr. Leonard is going to come
talk
present.
about what he's doing with the college prep stuff.
And he'll bring you some examples of what he does with those.
So we'll have an update for that.
Ms. Watson.
That's not what we agreed on.
You also told me you weren't bringing a newsletter.
Come on.
So
That's your.
you need to show it off.
I guess pass it around.
Anyway, come on.
Yep.
I told my teens we needed a big card and we couldn't figure out how to find a card, and so they came up with all of this, and so we passed it around to all the kids, and they had fun signing it. We've got hearts and smiley faces, and we were impressed by some of their handwriting too, by the way. I thought, oh, wow, we did that. So thank y'all for it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, same. Made a poster for you guys. It's got all your names on it, and our staff signs. Well, thank you for what you guys do.
Appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's it. Guess we'll go back to the action items. We have next is the deliberation and possible action to order a general election for the elections of 3 trustees position, District 2 and 2 at large to be held on May 6, 2023.
Make a motion to approve as presented.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Next, we have deliberation and possible approval of the memorandum of the understanding between Medical Arts Hospital and Lamesa ISD in cases of threat situations. What do we?
Oh, the agreement for the elections.
Oh,
I'm
sorry.
sorry. Yeah.
Okay.
It's kind of all jumbled there together.
Okay. The one we're going to next is deliberation and possible action on a joint election agreement with the city of Lamesa.
I'm sure this is the typical
Yeah.
stuff that y'all do, right?
Mm-hmm.
I make a motion we accept as presented. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Now we'll go to the deliberation and possible approval of the memorandum of the understanding between Medical Arts Hospital and Lamesa ISD in cases of threat situations.
Yeah, so basically, the district is required to submit an emergency operations plan every year. And I think each year they add more stuff to it, but part of the plan requires us to have memorandums of understanding or interlocal agreements with other entities that are supposed to help us in case of a threat or in case of an emergency. And so in a previous one, I had seen something about that we had an interlocal agreement with the hospital. So I called the hospital to find out because I didn't have a copy of it. And according to Mr. Olivares, who is now, I believe, the administrator there, he was not aware of an agreement that we had, so we just decided to make one.
Mm-hmm.
And so our attorney drafted this agreement, and I told him we'd be bringing it to the board. We met on Monday. He was going to take his agreement to the hospital's attorney. But and he would let me know if there were any changes that needed to be made to it, and he did. I called him twice today, and I was not able to get him on the phone. So we're going to go ahead and if they do have changes, then I'll bring it back. But my guess is, it was written by an attorney. Their attorney will look at it, and my guess is, we're not asking for anything other than that we get to use their parking lot as long as we don't clog up the doors, when no one's inside, and that they give us freely interchange information with us, with the district about students that are in there or staff that's in the hospital if something was to happen. And that's basically the whole premise of the agreement. Okay?
So no fee, like under item 4, it talks about a payment per year for the hospital.
Well, he said, it was, we talked about, there was a $25 amount there. He didn't feel comfortable leaving it at 25 because he hadn't met with this board, so that's why I took it out. But if it's more, if it's an outrageous amount of money, which he says, I don't see them asking for any money, it might be 0, just because that's what they're required to do for us, is to provide help for us. But I left it blank. If it's something, an enormous amount, then I'll bring it back to the board and we'll do something different. Okay.
Make a motion to approve as presented.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Next, we'll go to the deliberation and possible action to stop live streaming of Lamesa ISD board meetings to audio recordings of Lamesa ISD board meetings. Anybody have any questions on
This, I'm the culprit on this. I'm the one that requested it. And the reason being, back in the, I guess the November board meeting, whenever we voted to continue to set the cameras back up and start doing it, I did vote against Dahlia, Ms. Benavides' recommendation during that meeting. And then in the November meeting, which I was unable to attend, I had an audit myself that I had to give up north. I wasn't here, but I've listened to the recording since then. And I gotta be honest, it didn't set well with me whenever the comments were made that why are we adopting policy or changing policy whenever we don't have a real superintendent right now? And to me, that's a slam against Ms. Benavides, and that should have never happened. And so, my thinking is, I'm all for the, I'm not trying to deprive the people. I want the community to see what we do and to be able to see what we do. But I'm not in favor of providing a platform for somebody to come in here and continually bust us between the nose or bust us between the eyes. Be accused of doing things illegal, being accused of having hidden agendas, being accused of this and accused of that. You've got those folks have the right to make those statements, and they can make them all they want, but I don't feel like it's in the best interest of the school district in the image that we're trying to provide. I just don't think I don't think it's a good idea to provide that kind of platform, and I think that's what those cameras are doing right now. I don't think the intent of them is not genuine, so that's why I thought we needed to revisit it again.
We'll still have it recorded.
Yeah,
It will still have the recording, so anyone who would like to listen, they could still
it's still
hear
available.
what they.
Well, I was emailed, and y'all probably too, about, they can't tell who's talking based on the voices because they don't know. I like the video just because I think some things are going to come to light about the bond money, how it was spent, things that were built that were promised that weren't, or things that were built or things that weren't built that were promised. And just like the fund balance. I think that needs to be, as we get into it, just like tonight, I think we're going to see a light that we were on the right path, and I just think the communities, we see that the board was doing the right thing, and we were getting pushback because we were on the right path.
We don't have agendas. We're not hiding nothing.
I think everybody knows where I stand. I have trouble hiding stuff. I'll be straight shooter with you.
Well, that was the only reason why what happened at that December board meeting.
And I did challenge
Ms. Benavides
them.
didn't deserve that.
I challenged them. No, I agree with that too. But I challenged them to go to the other taxing entities and if it's that important to the public, go to the city, go to the county, go to other school districts, go to the hospital, and ask them to live stream or report all their stuff. Mm-hmm. We pay taxes to them just as much as they pay taxes to the school. If it's that important, go to their meetings and get them live streamed. But I'm with you. It does feel like just this group's being done. But if the other taxing entities would be done, I don't think y'all have a problem.
I agree with you, Ron. Like I said, I know this has been a big issue for whatever reason. I'm for it, against it, doesn't matter to me. Leave it up, take it down. I know people say that about the recording. They don't know. We've all pretty much got a very distinct voice. But anyway, I brought up, to myself, like, the views have been low. I think last time I looked at it, it was like 18 views. Regardless if somebody looked at it later on, whatever.
That was easy.
But we can also, if we're so worried about really what's going on within the district and not the drama that's ensued with everything, we put a survey here recently about what the community, people wanted wanted in a superintendent. And what was the response on that?
77
Low.
77 people.
Out of how many people in this town? So that's where I come in on it. Are we
And
really
I-
that concerned? Because where was the response on the most important thing that we're dealing with right now?
And that's another thing that I've always wondered, that they gave us graphs again.
Yeah.
Those are, that doesn't actually come directly
Yes, ma'am.
from. So that
I
to
mean,
me, it's puzzling to see how we had a high amount of the graph showing us that this is how many people, how they felt. But when it comes to the superintendent, we didn't get that
There's
type
no
of response.
And I posted
And I would
it.
think
know
that would have been
Ron
important.
posted it. I mean, y'all know I use my Facebook to put it out there. Whatever it is, I'll put, hey, there's a meeting, there's a meeting, there's a meeting, there's a meeting. You know,
And in the radio, I mean, people
Yeah.
don't see who's on the radio. They just hear it, and I don't think it's
I
any
don't think
different.
it's so much of who said it. I think it's just what the information that's being said is what.
like I said, I'm not against it, whatever, you know, but I'm just saying the responses on the important things, and the superintendent thing is the biggest thing we're dealing with right now. And we barely had,
Nobody.
I was one of the responses, and y'all might have been the
Yeah.
others. I don't know. I mean, that's what I'm getting at. I mean,
I couldn't find the link until I hit the deadline.
yeah.
I just think.
And not only that, it was sent out on parents where whatever. I mean,
I think
I
with
check that thing
our-
every day.
With our new superintendent, with
but
Dr.
that's all I'm
Wilson,
saying
yeah.
with everything. It's just that whatever it stays up comes down doesn't bother me, but the things that we should be responding to we're not as a community. You know,
And I wish we would have more people come and voice those opinions
Yes,
too,
ma'am.
in person, or give us a call. I mean, you know,
Yes,
we
'cause
get
those are
called
things
for
we could've
everything
taken into
else.
consideration.
We have had packed boardrooms before, and I feel like if it's a community need, then they will, come. I just feel like whoever our new superintendent is, we've had such a negative. It's been so negative when it comes to the cameras. I don't want someone new coming in thinking this is just gonna. I don't want them feeling that kind of pressure. It's hard, making decisions, and we want to make the best decisions. But I don't feel like we need that sort of platform. I feel like it's an open meeting, and anyone could come. And it will be recorded for whoever can.
Anybody have any other questions or comments? Okay, I guess I'll make the motion, and I'll do a raise of hands because I may not be able to understand him.
I make a motion to approve as presented.
Second.
All in favor? This is to bring them down, right?
Yes.
You have to take them down.
1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-2.
Before we adjourn, I do want to address something.
Okay.
On that capital outlay where we found the expenditure for the skid steer, I just noticed that the date was, when that was processed, was 12/2 of 2021, which was not this December, but last year's December. So it would have been like,
It never came to us,
So you
and
guys-
even then we had it
What
where it
was
had to
that?
be over
What was it?
25,000, and we didn't get it.
okay, but that, I just want y'all to know, because I was a little like taken aback, because I was like, there's no way that something could have snuck by me, $65,000 worth, and so that's why I was like panicking. But we will go back and look, not this December, but last December, maybe November or October, to see if there's anything on the agenda or on an item or the minutes that we can reflect back to that time.
All right. There being no further business to come before the board, this meeting is adjourned at 7:51 p.m. Thank you.